Omega.
Thank you for joining us on Easter Sunday. Well, we have quite some things to share with you today, don't we, Leslie?
Yes, in fact, a number of really amazing revelations will be revealed to you today.
A lot of things coming up here. I am Bishop David Griffin, and I'm here together with Reverend and High Priestess Leslie McQuade. Now, Leslie is both a Reverend and a High Priestess, as she is both an ordained minister, and at the same time, she is also a Wiccan High Priestess. And how that came to be is going to be an interesting story that Leslie will tell you today. As for me, I've been involved in esoteric studies for a very, very long time. And actually, the whole thing began for me when I was a kid. And growing up as a teenager, I began to realize that there must be more to Christianity than what I was experiencing. And it seemed to me that the message that we were getting in the Bible was only part of the story. Because we were hearing the message that Jesus was giving to the masses, but very little about what Jesus was teaching his disciples. Seems a little strange, doesn't it? What we would like to share with you today are a whole bunch of interesting things. Today is a very special day. In fact, it's a historic day. Today is a weird Easter, no?
Very strange. For the
Very.
first time in almost 200 years, the egg celebration at the White House will not be taking place.
Oh, that's so sad.
It's tragic.
It's tragic, and many, many other things. Believe it or not, there are today people who are being arrested for going to church. Well, if not arrested, ticketed. It's been going on for a week already. Folks, we are in a serious situation here. It's very serious. No, Leslie?
It's incredibly serious. We are all under house arrest. We are involuntary prisoners in our own homes.
Exactly.
And there is absolutely no reason for it.
This should show us just how quickly freedom can disappear. In fact, freedom can disappear very quickly. Look what happened to us. So fast, just because of a virus. Might not have even been a virus. Had they said it anyway, we would have all reacted the same. What we have shown here is just how quickly humanity will acquiesce and put up with totalitarianism. I mean, we are, for all purposes and effects, under martial law already, at least for now.
Our ancestors would be absolutely horrified to see us in these conditions.
Absolutely. It's really, really horrific what is happening to us. Now, you may ask, so what does all of this have to do with what we're doing here today? Well, we're here gathering today in a religious, spiritual service and webinar where we're going to be transmitting important information on Easter Sunday in the last remaining refuge where we can actually gather together today. I mean, that is not cool.
Not at all.
Here we are in cyberspace, which we all know is heavily censored already, and now it's taken away from us our ability to physically assemble, to gather together as a group, even to go to church on Easter Sunday. That is astonishing, the lack of freedom that we are now experiencing. About what a travesty it is that we can't gather physically today.
That's right.
And people are actually getting ticketed for going to church today. And we're talking about just how horrible it is that our freedoms are being trampled on the way they are.
They've even announced that in certain areas of the United States, big box stores such as Walmart and Home Depot are going to have police checking people's carts as they exit to make sure they have not purchased any unnecessary items, or perhaps that they have purchased more items than they were allowed under rationing.
This is in the UK that we saw that happening, but it could happen here, folks. Look how fast it happened with this virus situation that we find ourselves right now under house arrest, imprisoned in our own homes. That's basically what's going on. Can you believe that? On Easter Sunday, they're giving out tickets. There are towns giving out tickets for people going to church.
People who have never even gotten a speeding ticket, 80-year-old little ladies who just go back and forth to the market and to church are getting these massive tickets and being threatened with jail time simply because they choose to go to a parking lot and sit in the isolated environment of their car to listen to the broadcast of their favorite preacher on their own radio.
Exactly, because they're sitting in the parking lot of the church. They're not allowed to do that. I mean, they're following social distancing guidelines.
Yes.
Folks, what this shows more than anything is how precarious our freedoms are. They could be gone tomorrow like that. I think we're going to come out of this okay this time, relatively okay. But there are people, folks, that want to establish a totalitarian world government.
Make no mistake.
Make no mistake. And they would do anything to get to it. And our freedoms are in the way. This, it seems, was just a test run. People wanted to see what was going to happen, what's going on.
How pliable we are, how willing we are to go along with the rules.
How much we'll put up with it.
How many people think it's fun to play disaster movie? Ooh.
Look, here's someone, holistic vegan. A man in Manchester here in the UK was delivering food to his sick mother and was set up on by police. It's out of control.
It's completely out of
It's
control.
completely out of control. But folks, you know that this fits Christian prophecy perfectly. Now, whether this is the realization of prophecy or they have been scripting their world takeover attempt using Christian prophecy, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? But here we are,
Right.
where they actually are trying to take over, and they are trampling our freedoms today. And all of us are cowering in our homes afraid of a cold virus. Souped up cold virus is basically what it is.
We've never been afraid of the flu.
You know, this is just symptomatic. But today we find ourselves in a unique situation. I mean, absolutely unique. This is unparalleled in the history of mankind, the situation that we find ourselves in today. Now, those of you who have been with us for any length of time know that every single morning, Leslie and I are magically working for human freedom worldwide. Now you know why. We have seen this dark tide coming. We've been fighting against it. We've been trying to turn the Titanic around and get it away from the iceberg.
Encouraging people to help us
Right.
lend their energy.
Right, to the cause of human freedom. When our freedoms are so precarious, on the edge of a razor blade, and could be gone tomorrow. In fact, according to Christian prophecy, the Great Tribulation is coming. And it looks like it's upon us, folks. I mean, look around. Look around and look at what's happening.
They're already experiencing the Great Tribulation in China. People are being
Right.
burned alive.
Right. You know, there were
Overdose.
stories coming out of China of the crematoriums burning people who died of COVID-19 and hearing screams coming out of the crematoriums from people that were still alive. I mean, this is happening in the world today. Today.
And just because you're not experiencing it face to face doesn't make it any less real or
Right.
any less dangerous to you personally.
I mean, you saw how fast this virus got around the world, and we all got affected by it. So, here we are, folks, in this weird situation. It's absolutely bizarre. Very, very strange situation. Never heard from before in the history of mankind. The whole world is basically under house arrest. All of us. In one way or another. Half the world, but I don't want to exaggerate.
Right.
But pretty much. By one little virus. That was all the change that it took. Now you see how precarious it is. So now, folks, that's the reason why we chose today, Easter Sunday, to explain to you the true meaning of the rapture. The rapture, of course, we're talking about from Christian prophecy. Most Christians that think about the rapture imagine it as an event.
Right.
Now, how are they imagining that? If you think about it.
It was described to me as people would rise up all at once, and there would just be a massive
Yeah, all of these
uplifting.
people coming out of their graves and flying up to meet Jesus in the air. Sounds more like a zombie movie or an episode of Resident Evil if you've got all of these decomposed bodies suddenly flying up into the air. I mean, it's kind of an unrealistic image, folks. And it's all based on a couple of verses and an interpretation, one interpretation of those verses. Mm-hmm. Well, certainly, folks, the rapture is here. It's right here and right now. This is our last chance to get off this rock before the coming tribulation. And have no doubt, it is coming. Bill Gates has already invented digital tattoos to see whether or not you have the COVID-19 or whatever virus. They're coming with it, folks. They're going to try forced inoculations on the entire humanity, and they're going to put subcutaneous digital chips in our bodies that you won't be able to buy or sell without. You won't even be able to leave your home without permission.
We're being chipped like wildebeest in the field.
Right, we're being chipped like animals. In fact, we're being herded like animals. In fact, they're trying to cull the herd of human beings. In fact, they'd rather kill us all and replace us all with robots, or as many of us as possible. Don't kid yourselves, folks.
We're in the battle of our lives.
We are. We're in the battle of our lives. And don't think, just because you're Christian, you're going to get raptured out of here and you're not going to have to fight in this battle. That's not the way the rapture works.
And don't think that just because you're pagan, that you're removed from all of this and you're in some other little bubble.
You're under house arrest today, too.
We're all in the same bubble.
All of us are in the same boat. Everybody. That's why it's very important that you understand that this is a prison planet. One way or another, we are imprisoned on this planet. We're imprisoned in this physical body, if nothing else. And it has always been through the history of mankind that there has been an elite controlling everyone else. What kind of freedom is in that?
The freedom to obey. I don't choose that freedom.
America has been a marvelous experiment in freedom, but even this, folks, and in fact, you know, Leslie and I have been doing this human freedom worldwide rituals every single day, but it's looking more and more like all we've been succeeding in doing is rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic.
Yes.
So, of course we have to fight. We have to fight for human freedom worldwide, and we fight for it with all our magic and all our hearts.
Yes.
But at the same time, it is important to understand what the rapture really means. The rapture, folks, is not an event. It is a practice, a spiritual discipline that was left to us by Jesus of Nazareth in order to escape this prison. In fact, Jesus Christ successfully escaped, and he left the escape plans to us.
We can get out of Alcatraz.
Yes, we can. Now, well, who are the guards then? What's going on here? Who are we imprisoned by? What's happening here? Folks, if you take a look around, you will understand that this planet is invaded by demons. Entities from another dimension, from a lower dimension, that hate us.
Desperately loathe us.
They want us to be gone. And unfortunately, there are human beings and black magicians that are in league with them.
Who, for some reason, appear to hate their fellow humanity.
They would rather have personal power and lord it over us.
That is not going to work the way they think it is.
Right. Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all. So therefore, it's very important. If I had told you this any other Easter Sunday, you would say, ah, he's nuts. And there are people for sure that are watching this right now that are saying, ah, he's nuts. But you will see. With time, you will see.
Yes.
What matters is that it was never intended that we human beings should come back incarnation after lifetime back to this planet. That was never the idea. This is a garden of souls, folks. The earth is a garden of souls. This is our kindergarten. This is our childhood. This is the first stage of life for us. Every single human being, including you, has a divine spark inside. A spark of divinity that comes from the highest dimensions, inside light. There's a luminous spark inside each and every one of us that has the potential to blossom into a mature soul, a mature energetic body, into which we can project our consciousness at the moment of death, becoming consciously immortal and transcending to the higher planes. All of the great initiatic traditions of history have talked about this, folks.
Yes. So what I want to talk about a little bit are a couple of books that many people are very, very familiar with, and most have read at least one of them.
Right.
The Tibetan Book of the Dead and the Egyptian Book of the Dead.
Right.
Now, what makes these two texts so interesting? Well, first, Jesus would have probably had access to the Egyptian Book of the Dead.
Right.
It was in existence at the time of his life. So too, the Tibetan Book of the Dead. And there are those who think that perhaps a journey was made at some point during the missing years of Jesus, and maybe he studied in India, maybe he studied in the East. There's no definitive proof of that we've found thus yet. That being said, there are amazing synchronicities between the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, and the process of rapture.
Folks, early Christianity did not look at all like it looks today. Things have changed over time. In fact, the biggest change was the coming of the Roman Church, especially the coming of the Roman priesthood and Roman Christianity becoming the official religion of the empire. When that happened, it was just a question of years. Magic was forbidden throughout the empire. Imagine that. And in fact, they began to eliminate all trace of Jesus' magic from canon. Completely scrubbed. And people until today have been told that magic is evil. You would not believe it, folks. It is absolutely unreal. One would think that things have changed after 2,000 years. You see, back in Jesus' day, they accused him, the religious leaders of the day, the scribes, they accused him of casting out demons by the power of the prince of demons. In other words, being in league with demons himself. Jesus' answer was, a house divided against itself cannot stand.
As we see in the United States today.
I know. So, but the point is that nothing has really changed. Religious leaders today still condemn magic. Even the magic of Jesus, some of them, believe it or not. And there is no evil in the magic of Jesus, folks. None whatsoever. It is the most sublime magical system of the magic of light that I have ever experienced in my life.
Yes, I agree. You know, I've practiced a lot of different types of magics, and the magic of light is by far the gentlest, the most effervescent, the most uplifting and life-altering magic I have ever personally practiced. And by life-changing, I mean that when you undertake a magical practice, any magical practice, in fact, anytime you decide to do something new, it's going to change you. For example, If you decide to start playing a musical instrument, you will never listen to music the same way again. You have been changed by the process of learning how to play music.
Right.
So too with magic. Magic changes you in very predictable, very prescribed, very planned ways.
Especially the magic of light, because you're changing yourself through the contact with the angels themselves.
Yes. And this contagious contact with angelic forces naturally uplifts the human spirit that is contained within our bodies.
Jesus taught this as well, folks. He taught it to his disciples. The Romans, I mentioned, tried to eliminate every trace of Jesus' magic, especially the Roman priesthood and the Catholic Church, in the early days of the Catholic Church. They were misguided following the councils of Nicaea, when they established prescribed canon and eliminated certain things. One of the things that got eliminated was Jesus' magic. In fact, they tried to wipe out all trace of it, but they weren't able to. The bishops of Egypt, some of them, were clever enough to bury some of the most sacred texts beneath the sand so the Romans couldn't get at them. And one of these was recovered in 1769 near Thebes in Egypt, near Karnak, in fact, in a document called the Bruce Codex, which contains, in my opinion, two of the most important documents of spiritual treasure of the Western world. The first and second books of Iao. The first book of Iao and the second book of Iao. The first book of Iao contains the magic of the treasuries of light. That is what Leslie and I have been sharing with you now on a daily basis for almost 2 years now.
Yes.
Every single day, you opening the treasury of light, a different treasury, and working our way through the entire system. And also doing some work with scrying on our own to get to know the system thoroughly. Mm-hmm. But the second book of Iao is even more interesting than the first. And this is why Leslie brought up the Tibetan Book of the Dead and the Egyptian Book of the Dead. Yes. Because, folks, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but the earth is invaded by demons and we are riddled with them. Human beings also. It's like waking up and seeing what's going on this planet is like discovering you have termites in your house. You have to get rid of them. And this is the purpose of baptism. Mm-hmm. John the Baptist said, I baptize you with water, but he who comes after me, he will baptize you with fire and the Holy Spirit. Well, he was referring to Jesus' baptisms that are contained in the second book of Iao. Yes. The baptism of the waters of life, the baptism of fire, and the baptism of the Holy Spirit. 3 baptisms that Jesus gave to his disciples. These are 3 initiatic rituals that have an exorcistic function. And they're followed by a ritual specifically to break the power of demons over you forever. This is the whole point of Jesus' magic. This is what it's all about. It's about liberating ourselves from the demonic forces that have us today imprisoned in our own homes. And it's possible. So this is what the magic of Jesus is all about. And it's followed by the mystery of the forgiveness of sins. And then the most important piece of the whole thing, the magic of jailbreak, the magic of rapture, the magic of rising on the plains and getting past each of the guardians as we rise. It is the magic of resurrection into the kingdom of light. Yes. Never before have these things been stated so clearly as they are today. Mm-hmm. Mark this day, April 20th, 2020, for this is the day that the beginning of the rapture has been proclaimed, mm-hmm. as we are proclaiming it right now. Because the rapture is not an event. The rapture is a magic. It is the magic of ascension, the magic of resurrection, the magic of liberation from this body of flesh. No longer do you need to come back and reincarnate in another meat body. But at the end of this lifetime, we can transcend directly into the kingdom of light using the magic of Jesus. The rapture magic of Jesus.
Now, I want to say a few words to the pagans who may be out
I'll
there.
bet.
Because, well, for one thing, you need to know how I came to hold the opinion that I have. Because I have, and anyone who has known me has known that I have been very adamant in my criticism of Christianity. And there are many points that Christianity deserves to be criticized for. Yes, the Inquisition was hideous, and they should be criticized for that. However, I counter. Have they not changed their ways? Is there no better sign that the magic of Jesus can move on people's hearts and change them than the fact that Christians no longer seek to burn witches? Now, another thing that perhaps may surprise you is that I am absolutely now comfortable with Christians and Christian magic. This was not always the case for me because I had some baggage, which a lot of pagans do have baggage from this. Something that is very, very difficult for pagans is to understand that if you're really going to be a polytheist, it does include Jesus and Yahweh and God and those Christian concepts. If you're going to be a real polytheist, then that means many gods. That means accepting this on an equal basis. That's not as difficult as it might sound. Now, if it is difficult, I'll tell you why it was difficult for me. I was under a mild form of demonic possession. It had to have been the case because every time I heard the name Jesus, I could feel the hackles on my neck going up, like, wah, wah. For a polytheist, that's not a very normal reaction.
Not at all.
And
not
so,
if you're walking your talk.
Right. So I had to step back and take a look at that. Now, why is that? Why is it that I feel such an upwelling of emotion at the mere mention of the name? Well, who else feels such an emotional upwelling and reaction when the name of Jesus is said? Have you ever seen The Exorcist?
Right. Jesus was the greatest exorcist who ever lived, folks. He's the greatest magician who ever lived as well. And even the mention of his name has an exorcistic function. Imagine the power of his magic.
And this is what I'm encouraging you to do. As a pagan, just very gently with yourself, if you happen to have trouble with Jesus and Bibles and Christian crosses and other things of this nature, I encourage you, just go into any mirror and look into your own eyes and say, why does the name Jesus bother me so much? And then listen and see what you hear. You will be astonished at the that's going to come flooding out of you. And when this happened to me, I was nonplussed by the whole thing. I thought, well, what is this? I've never considered myself to have a demonic possession. This is ridiculous. I'm a perfectly nice person. I get a little wild if I've had a drink or two, but doesn't everyone? And then I realized it didn't necessarily have to be something that I was conscious of. That in a world filled with demons, filled with demonic possession, where even the images of the television are demonic and torturous and painful, this could have come simply from contagion. Just like contact with the angels raises you up, contact with demons drags you down.
Right.
And I realized that just living in this world was enough to get the stink of demonic energy on me such that it needed to be cleaned off.
And this is the purpose of baptism. But don't kid yourself. Christian magic is not, or Jesus magic is not the only form of exorcism, by no means.
No, the Tibetans have an incredibly effective form.
Very wealthy.
They've got the big purba that they use, and drums and horns.
But all of the great initiatic traditions are concerned about banishing these demons.
Also, shamanic traditions, dark shamanism that a lot of people don't want to talk about, where you use somewhat malevolent forces. That's war magic. Dark magic is, there's a war magic that can be used. But even shamans use depossession to pull out the negative entities. And how many ancient cultures believe that all illness, all human suffering, all sickness, all pain come from demonic infestation?
In fact, that can be argued even today.
Yes.
In fact, we could say that we are right now, all of us, imprisoned in our home by demons.
At least those who are possessed by demons.
If it's viral demons or whatever you want to call them.
Sure. Yes.
You know?
How many angels can fit on the head of a pin? How many demons can fit inside of a virus? It's an equivalent question.
Right. So the question is, how do we get rid of them? And let's get rid of them. And that's what we're doing. We've been saying, cast out the demons every single morning. And there's more that can be done, and more and more and more. In fact, we're doing what we can already. Look, now you understand why it was so important that we put out the free ebook that we did. Was Jesus secretly a magician? The 3 lost baptisms of Christ. By the way, you can get that at our website. Let me put that up there for you. alphaomega.church. If you go there to alphaomega.church, you can download this ebook for free, and it's amazing. It will give you some history of Jesus as a magician, and the most important thing is that you can download in that ebook. We have published all 3 of the secret baptisms of Jesus that he used to baptize his disciples. The baptism of the waters of life, of fire, and the Holy Spirit. They're all there, folks. I suggest that you use them. You can self-baptize with them.
All the instructions are there.
They're all there. It's all there. You have to adapt things a little bit, but it doesn't matter. What matters is that you do it with the intention of purifying yourself, of cleansing yourself, of eliminating these entities from you. It will work.
Remember, symbols are what they represent.
Right.
So as you are doing these baptisms on yourself, remember the symbols. That is what's going to help the most as you cleanse yourself of these negative entities.
Right. It's important that you know to do this yourself and you practice it and you see for yourself so that to empower you as you. But still, it is important that the baptisms actually be conferred, and all will come in its due time. We had planned to begin the baptisms this year on the 24th of June, on St. John's Day. But as you can see, the demons had other ideas. Now, instead, we're all imprisoned in our homes. But I promise you this, the day will come when we are free to communicate baptism on the 24th of June, on St. John's Day. And we will begin to communicate the baptisms to those who would like to have them. As John baptized in the desert, so do we. There's a reason for that. Why did John baptize in the desert? Because of the powerful sun there, the God force energy, how strong it is burning in those places at that time. We will communicate these to you. I will baptize you with the waters of life, with fire, and with the Holy Spirit. By the way, my middle name is John, for those who may not have known that. Let me say a word to the Christians. This message, the message of the rapture, is not exclusively for Christians. In fact, this is one of the things that has gotten me in trouble more than anything, is the fact that I have Leslie by my side.
Hi.
A pagan high priestess, which I have insisted on from the very beginning. We have been berated by certain religious leaders, folks, for that. I've been accused of many things, but mostly they don't like the fact that Leslie is here. Too bad. The message of the rapture, the magic of Jesus, is for all who want to practice it, not just one sect or another. This is a magic of liberation, folks. It is the patronage of all humanity, of all human beings. The magic of freedom, the magic of ascent, the magic of resurrection unto eternal life in the kingdom of light. The kingdom of light is a very real place, folks. It is a dimension at the speed of light. And that's where we're going using this magic. But the bad news is, this is our last chance, folks. Like I said, we've been trying to turn the ship around, avoid the iceberg, turn the Titanic around. So far, we've only been able to rearrange the deck chairs. That's why today that we're all imprisoned in our homes, we are bringing out the magic of rapture and the message of the liberation that comes with the magic of Jesus.
Now, it's very true that this message is not just for Christians, because, in fact, in Jesus' day, there weren't any Christians yet. There were only those who followed him. And those who followed him came from every stripe and description.
Right.
Mary Magdalene came from the city of Magdalene, which was a port city, very much like Alexandria, and had every religious and magical stripe that you could think of there. And yet, with all those different choices in front of her, she chose the magic of light. And I believe I know why. You see, when we're talking about the rapture, that's a thing that we get to experience. Easter talks a lot also about the resurrection. And this, I think, is very important because I want you to understand my understanding of what the resurrection is through my particular lens. I've studied a lot of different cultures and a lot of different magical systems in my past. And the resurrection fascinates me. And one day in meditation, I received an answer to my question. What is so important about the resurrection? I mean, it just seems like a strange story to me. For pagans, the most important idea, the thing that you really need to understand, is that it wasn't the cross, it wasn't the torture, it wasn't the moving of the rock after 3 days. It was the fact that he could leave his body at will and return, even when the body was, for all intents and purposes, physically dead. No discernible heartbeat, no discernible breath, no blinking, stick a needle in his eye, he doesn't flinch. Okay, must be dead, take him down, put him away before he stinks, right? It is amazing that someone could physically disconnect their spirit from their physical body, leave, and then come back and reanimate that body. That is a magical power that I am awed by, to be quite honest. I have seen some really incredible acts of magic. I've seen telekinesis. I have seen levitation. I've seen some really kind of startling, freaky things as well when I was hanging out with the Indians. But I have never seen anyone who has the ability to die and come back. That is a magic beyond all others. And what that says is that his light body was so fully intact and so functional that it was ready right when he needed it. And he could just bloop, step right into the new suit and out of it and back in and out again. And this is talked about in the Bruce Codex, how he was able to put on the robe of light.
The robe of glory, exactly. He recovered his robe of light. You know, this story is quite amazing. And it's very important for the Christians out there to understand that Jesus' main message was not salvation. His message was abundant life, here and now. And you can have all the life you want. We call it God force energy. You just have to learn to assimilate it and shine it. This is the most important part of his message. And it's the part that Christianity today has lost, because the pastors of today, by and large, are but the blind leading the blind, as was the case in Jesus' day. In fact, many of them condemn the magic of Jesus itself, when it is the true magic of true salvation, the magic of transcendence, the magic of resurrection unto the kingdom of light, the magic of ascent into the luminous dimension inside the sun. And that's another thing, folks. Why is it that humanity still today apparently can only imagine life on other planets and not life in other dimensions? Why do we have to think that there could only be life on a planet in another solar system? Why not? Why can we not even imagine that the stars themselves are teeming with life? Life not like what we know, because it's a luminous life, not material.
Right. We scrape together our pennies and send it to the government so that they can build these fabulous machines that carry them places to grab little samples of water and look and see, are there protozoa? Is there life? And all you need to do is open yourself up to the possibilities of life inside of stars, life inside of dimensions, multiple layers of life living on life in an amazing interconnected four-dimensional web, 5 dimensions. In fact, mathematicians have already proved that we live in a universe that is constructed on a structure of 11 dimensions.
Wow.
We have access to only 3, and peripherally of a 4th one. So why do we think we know what life is? Why do we think we know where it can be found? Those who practiced in the past ancient magics, in fact, had more knowledge of life in other dimensions than we have. Although that is changing. There's a very startling development. There are those who are experimenting with going into other dimensions through the use of hallucinogenic drugs and electrical wires.
The problem with that is you don't have any roadmap, you're just being dragged off to who knows what, and they run smack into these demonic clockwork elves.
A lower dimension, because
Right.
the drugs are pulling them down.
Right. Folks, all you really have to do is open yourself to the angels. They will come. And it's really wonderful when you're using the magic of light of Jesus, because the magic of the treasuries of light is astonishing in terms of contacting the angels. And once you contact them, the contagious contact with them, because they are reaching down to you from the kingdom of light, from the universe of light, from the luminous dimension inside the sun, and contact with them changes your energetic body, your nature, so that you become more luminous yourself. This is what the magic of light is all about, in all of its forms.
Yes.
By the way, something occurred to me when you were talking before, Leslie.
Yes.
You know, you're right. Yeah, okay, I get some grief because of the fact that I insist on including you.
Oh, but you don't know how much grief I get for including him.
I know it goes both ways. Hey, well, we're in good company, because guess what? Jesus got the same grief in his day for including Mary Magdalene. And she, I'm sure, got the same grief for hanging around with him. And she was one of his closest, if not the closest, disciple.
And just for the record, no, she wasn't a prostitute. She was a free woman, unmarried.
Right.
And because she was a free woman, unmarried, in a time when most women her age already were married, that is why in the 1300s, preachers started describing her as a harlot, because in the 1300s, remember, now we're getting back into the Inquisition, now we have to
Right.
stamp down free women.
Right.
This is when she adopted that, when that moniker was given to her as part of the Inquisition. It was not even part of the ancient Council of Nicaea.
Well, you'll be happy to know that in the first and second book of Iao, when Jesus is talking to his disciples, in fact, some of the most important interactions are with Mary Magdalene, who was one of the disciples.
In fact, he called her his best disciple because she was able to grasp his message better than anyone else he taught.
Right, right. So, you know, the fact that the magic of Jesus is back, folks, is a big deal. It's a huge deal. In fact, it is the second coming of Jesus' magic.
Yes.
And we're so lucky that it's back. But it's going to be challenging. It challenges a lot, especially people who are very sectarian in their views, that think it should only be for our group and not for that group over there. Well, I'll tell you this, though. We're putting it out there for everyone. All who would practice.
All who would practice.
All who would practice. But the prophecy says there will only be 144,000. What does that mean? What this means is that, okay, we are right now in the end of days. We're about to enter into the period of the tribulation. I think it's going to be postponed during our lifetimes. It will probably be the next generation. Because first, the rapture has to have its time. The time for this mission has to first exist so that we have the opportunity to practice. We have the opportunity to leave at the end of this incarnation. But this is the last chance. At the end of this incarnation, for those of you who decide, instead of to transcend and become the luminous being you are destined to become, if you decide to keep coming back, things are going to get worse, folks. It's a lot worse. It's not going to be...
It's going to make the lifestyle of Upper Paleolithic mammoth hunters look like a picnic, okay? Just so you know, it's really going to be incredibly uncomfortable.
Well, they certainly don't want us to have a lot of freedom. And maybe we can push this off for a while so that we have enough freedom in order to practice and to spread this message, and that you have the opportunity to practice, and that you also have the opportunity at the end of this lifetime. And that's very important. We are not advocates of suicide.
No.
We are advocates of proper preparation for death.
And that's what is important. That's why I mentioned the Egyptian Book of the Dead and the Tibetan Book of the Dead, because these are training manuals for the process of death.
Right. And we also have this in Christianity in the first and second books of Iao. In fact, the book of the practice of transcendence of rapture is in the second book of Iao.
And it's much simpler in the texts that Jesus left than it
Very
is in the, oh my
straightforward.
goodness. The Egyptian Book of the Dead, oh my goodness. And the Tibetan Book of the Dead is even more complicated when it comes to figuring out what you have to remember, what you have to do. The Egyptians were pretty clear. You know, when you get to the other side, don't walk on the ceiling, don't eat feces, don't drink urine, you know, don't walk through people. You know, there's certain rules of protocol
Right.
listed in the Egyptian Book of the Dead of how you're supposed to act as you're making the transition from the meat suit to the light suit. And it's very important when making that transition, according to the Egyptian Book of the Dead and the Tibetan Book of the Dead and to the Book of Iao, it's very important to remember that in this transitional state, you are being judged. You are being judged. You are being checked. Let's see. It's just like in the military. Are you the right height?
The demonic forces that have us trapped on this planet don't want to let us go.
Right.
They have humanity right where they want us, enslaved. Varying degrees, but think about it. Okay, so we've gone from being direct slaves to being sharecroppers, in a certain sense.
Right.
Many of us have gone from being direct slaves to being indentured servants, but these are all forms of slavery.
any form of debt that you currently have is a type of slavery because you are indebted.
Right.
Indebtedness means that you do not fully own yourself. I know this is difficult to understand, and I really wish that somebody had explained it to me sooner.
I want to make this point
Yeah.
that we've been making this whole time in a different way, and I
Okay.
need your help to do it. If you wait for me just one moment.
Of
here, okay?
course.
I think you've seen this before. Join me up here where they can see it too.
Okay.
There we go. I think you've seen this before. Every morning for the last more than 2 years, we've been out there with a staff like this one, if not this staff, saying, set my people free.
Yes.
Set our people free. Set our people free. Well, today, for the first time, the meaning of this becomes clear. This is very much like the staff of Moses. And in fact, this period of the rapture is very much like the Exodus. It is time, folks. At the end of this lifetime, it is time for us to leave this planet forever. The time has come for us to leave the land of Egypt and to enter into the promised land. This is a symbol, folks. The land of Egypt is this planet Earth, and the promised land we speak of is the luminous dimension inside the sun. We are luminous creatures, and the time has come for us to go home. So we urge you, begin with the practice of the magic of Jesus. Join us in the mornings, daily, or on the restreams of our rituals. Vibrate the names of the angels with us. They will help you. They will guide you. They will help you to assimilate more God force day by day, day by day. Practice the baptisms.
Yes.
Practice the baptisms. Baptize yourself. Purify yourself with the intention of raising your consciousness and purging yourself of negativity and demonic entities and influence.
And really do try it. Go to the mirror. Ask yourself if you have trouble saying the name of Jesus with a smile on your face. Find out why. You may discover that, like me, you have a contagious demonic infestation that needs to be removed in order for you to become more luminous.
Right, exactly.
And that's the point. I haven't done this because I want to be a Christian.
Now, if you really have a huge problem with Jesus, use another kind of magic. I mean, use another kind of magic if you have to. Shamanic magic, whatever it is.
Yes.
But depossess yourself.
Yes.
This is very important.
It's not that difficult to do. In some cases it might be. You might need some help from someone. There's plenty of people out there who are willing to help with this.
Right,
You can lay hands on yourself.
right.
You can self-exercise so that no one needs to know what's going on. It's just you, yourself, your eyes, your mirror, your sovereign will, and your full intention to be the most light, most luminous creature you possibly can.
And to the magicians out there, remember this. Symbols are what they represent. What is happening also today is that the magic of exorcism is becoming more important than ever before. Let me give you an example. I believe, well, it's very possible. Right now it's impossible to know because they won't test you unless you have such severe symptoms that you almost need to be hospitalized. But I believe that I caught COVID-19. Leslie was here, she saw it. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that even when I catch a flu, it's always so mild that, it's because I have such a strong solar body. And when I caught this, immediately, I took it much more seriously than anything else. Mm-hmm. Leslie remembers, I stopped everything else I was doing for 2 days. Increased my supplements, upped to 100 milligrams of zinc every day, 4 times a day, 1,500 milligrams of time-released vitamin C, increased my dosage of vitamin D3, vitamin A, all of the things that I could think of to strengthen my immune system that I had here on hand. And at the same time, I used magic of my own concoction, combined with a very ancient magical tradition, which, and simple scientific fact, that the Indians used, the Native Americans, with their sweat lodge. So what I did is from the very moment that I could feel something coming, you can tell, a little bit feverish, a little bit extra mucus, little tingle in the nose. I upped the supplements, and I began to dedicate my time to taking one sweat bath after another, to sweat out as much as the virus as I possibly could, and ritualizing that bath, sweating out demons, banishing all demonic influences from me through my sweat as I was sweating out virus. And guess what? Within 24 hours, I was healed. And within 48 hours, there was no trace of it left. I continued the baths for an extra day. I believe that I have vanquished the demons of this virus from myself with only 2 days' effort. This I explained to you as a way of showing you how you can use spell work also to achieve the same exorcistic function, because I know since there are a lot of pagans joining us, there are some certainly out there who have a problem with Jesus still. So you might feel comfortable using spells like this in the meantime until you come around and see that there's no evil in the magic of Jesus even for pagans.
Truly, symbols are what they represent. And when you look at these symbols, what you're looking at is what you think they mean, not what the people wearing them think they mean.
You know, and this is why the magic of Jesus can be practiced by all. It is a set of spiritual practices, not a creed. All that you have to really believe is that it is possible at the end of this lifetime to ascend into the kingdom of light. And that you have to aspire to fulfill your destiny as a human being to become one of these luminous creatures that we are destined to become.
Yoga is a practice and can be separated from the Hindu milieu in which it occurred, so that you just get the physical benefits. But most people don't realize that the yoga process itself pumps God force into you by the combination of breath and movement. That is the practice to bring more God force into yourself from that culture and time. We as Westerners now finally have our own system where we can build our energetic bodies, and it is through the magic of light. We don't need to twist ourselves into pretzels or recite 1,000 mantras or pierce our tongues in order to receive this energy, this insight, this knowledge.
The magic of Jesus is the most powerful magic system that I have ever experienced, bar none. And I have experienced a lot. Yeah. And so have you, Leslie.
Yes.
So, well, folks, that's really what we wanted to tell you today. This has really been a pleasure to be with you here on Easter Sunday. And the magic of light is the magic of life itself.
And that's why pagans should be on board 110%. The pagans that I know are tree-hugging dirt worshippers. We love the earth so much.
Look, and the Christians that I know are great people too. Look, folks, don't let your pastor tell you that magic is evil, especially the magic of Jesus, because you will simply be rejecting your spiritual inheritance.
And pagans, oh my goodness! Do you know how thrilled I was when I found out that there was a Christian tradition that came down to me from my ancestors that contained magic? I was, upon the departure of my grandmother, I received 2 very important books, 2 books that have absolutely changed my life. One was Bernard McQuade's Preacher's Handbook.
Oh, wow.
My great-grandfather, on my father's side, was an Episcopalian minister. He lived in Monroe County, right near the border of Monroe County and Greenbrier County, on a creek, in a white 2-story house with 6 bedrooms, all of them full of kids and hound dogs. And the other book that was left was the one from my grandmother. She had converted to Catholicism, and I had what had been given to her by her priest, a very old copy of the Order of the Mass.
Wow.
I have the consecration of bishops, how to perform a Catholic exorcism, the way the Catholic Mass is structured. It's in Latin, it's in English, side by side. And as I started going through it, and going through the other one, I realized, oh my goodness, these are books of shadows. These are spell books. And I went through and I started working some of the spells. And the magic that is contained there is every bit as powerful as anything I learned from Manny Two Feathers. It is strong magic, and it's our birthright. Most pagans that I know are converts. They were raised in a Christian house and they decided that Christianity wasn't for them, so they adopted a new faith. Well, I am here to tell you that it is time for you to take a look at that which you left behind. Because
Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, folks.
I think you missed some really good stuff. Now, do not listen to the preachers of the past.
You know, religious zealotry is really a problem.
Yes,
I mean,
it is.
whether it's Islamic religious zealots or Christian religious zealots or pagan religious zealots.
Or atheist
all of
zealots.
these people that want to create these little boxes and exclude
Right.
everybody else. Well, look, folks, here we have got a magic of transcendence. We've got something of great value, of huge value, that is the patrimony of all mankind, and we can all use it to not have to come back to this dirt ball after we die. But this time, we go to the kingdom of light. We transcend. We're ready. We know how to escape. We know how to get past the barriers.
Yes.
That's the magic of rapture. That's what it's all about. And this transcends creed.
Yes.
That's the message. This is why you have a Christian bishop here standing next to a pagan high priestess, well, who is also a neo-Christian reverend. By the way, this is very important because, you know, Christianity has come to understand itself in a very particular way that is not completely harmonious with the magic of Jesus. And in fact, there are whole schools or aspects of Christianity that will certainly reject the magic of Jesus.
But I've been a practicing neo-pagan for 30 years. I've practiced neo-shamanism. And when I looked at this system,
Right,
I couldn't see it as the Christianity that I remembered from my childhood.
right.
I could see vestiges of it.
This is why we call it neo-Christianity. This is neo-Christian magic, folks. The magic of Jesus is neo-Christian. It's available to all.
And I am perfectly comfortable with calling myself a neo-Christian, because what it means is that I have found the message of Jesus, the master magician, in a new way.
Indeed. Indeed you have, Leslie. And both of us are really astonished by its power and its beauty and its glory, and we're so honored to be able to share these things with you and to play a role for humanity in bringing these things out. You know, neither one of us have any children left. Leslie chose not to have children, and then I lost my only son. Well, he was our son by that point. And after that, both of us, we don't really have any skin in the game here, folks. But still, nonetheless, we're out there every morning. Human freedom worldwide. Human freedom is trying to stop the Titanic from hitting that iceberg. Well, now we see that it's time not just to keep trying that, which we will every day. We're not changing that.
Oh, yes, we're going to keep
But
at
it's
it.
also time to man the lifeboats.
Yes.
And here they are, folks. Here's the magic of Jesus. Here are the lifeboats. We got to get out of here. At the end of this incarnation, this is the last chance. This is it. Prophecy says there will be 144,000 ripe souls ready to ascend, ready to resurrect. The 144,000 elect. Folks, are you one of them? That's your choice.
Yes.
If you want to be one of them, then practice the magic of Jesus and we will leave together. Remember? We will make this journey together. This journey to the promised land, to the kingdom of light. We will ascend and we shall be victorious. But we choose in Neo-Christianity for our organization, we choose not the symbol of the cross to represent us, because the symbol of the cross is a symbol of death. And we don't worship a dying Savior. Rather, we practice his living magic. And therefore, we choose the symbol that Jesus chose himself. For he said, I am the Alpha and the Omega.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming out. May God bless one and all this Easter Sunday. May God bless you. May we be delivered from this imprisonment very quickly in our homes. It is time to cast these demons out, reopen our economies. Before we go, I ask that you join us for a moment in prayer. Oh Lord, help us on this path. Help us to transcend at the end of this lifetime. Help us to bring out this magic, that it may become a shining beacon of light for all to see. Thank you so much for coming out. We ask these things and thank him in the name of Jesus of Nazareth. Amen.
So mote it be.
Thanks for joining us, folks. Welcome to join us on the Exodus, because the hour of the rapture is at hand.
Alpha
Omega.
Yesterday we released this brand new ebook, Was Jesus a Magician? Give you the basic background of the rediscovery of the lost books of Yahweh, how it happened, why they were repressed, why it is that the magic of Jesus was nearly destroyed and wiped from the face of the earth, and the miracle by which it survived. How we only have one precious manuscript of this ancient knowledge, and that's truly all there is left. Well, maybe in the Vatican they have it, but they're not about to give us that to fill in the little gaps that we found. So be sure to make sure you download this. You don't want to miss this. You can get it for free for now at thesecretsofjesus.com. Thesecretsofjesus.com.
Are you familiar with the Rosicrucian with what's his name? He's popular in the States. He's the president or the
Emperor.
Imperator.
The president.
Emperor.
Imperator.
From the Golden Dawn. What's his name?
Oh.
David Griffin holds this position as Emperor.
Imperator.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
Have David Griffin.
I saw an email yesterday that he sent out about, there's a magical war going on.
The Mage War.
Demons of the infernal realm. I'm all of them.
There is really a magical war going on.
The Mage War.
There is a guy called David Griffin who is heading all these magicians.
David Griffin is S.L. McGregor Mather's present successor.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
I'm Golden Dawn Imperator David Griffin.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
David Griffin.
Now David Griffin.
There's a magical war going on.
So there is really a magical war going on.
Alpha
Omega.